Chapter 6, The Reason I Trust You. When he found Emilia, cowering and clutching her knees, Subaru felt relief, which seemed out of place. Having found Emilia was the first part of it. That Emilia was here was the second. As he had firmly believed she could be nowhere else, her being here had fulfilled both his wishes. Though, I have to say, you really thought about this, Emilia-tan. Sure, here's a place you can hole up without anyone finding you, especially since the people who can enter are limited in the first place, and none of the ones who could were likely to do it. At the very least, besides Emilia, there were 3 candidates to enter this place, Echidna's tomb. One rejected the trial with every hair on his body, one had lost her role as the price for going against her creator, and the last had been stripped of his qualifications after earning the witch's ire. Beyond those 3, the others possessing qualifications were forbidden to enter under the terms of the pact they upheld. Truly, it was the perfect place for Emilia to hide in. Emilia hung her head at Subaru's words of praise. Then, with her head still lowered. Subaru, why are you here? If you have to ask why, that's a tough one. Probably because I'm always thinking of Emilia-tan, so I'm the one with the best grasp of Emilia-tan's feelings? Though, if that was truly the case, none of this would have happened to begin with. Emilia wouldn't have passed the night with enough worry to wind up so backed into a corner that she was cowering in a place like this. And this time, too, Emilia replied no to Subaru's answer, shaking her head. That's not what Subaru, I don't mean the reason you're here. Subaru, you're in a place people without qualifications can't enter, you know? Oh, you mean why my body didn't get thrown back like Roswell's? Fact is, even without being thrown back, I had to put up with a lot. It wasn't bad enough to make me collapse, thanks to my gait being so puny. I suppose I should be grateful that I have no talent for magic. Is that how it is? When Subaru replied that he'd put up with a lot, Emilia's eyes became filled with gloom. Tilting her head as she rested her chin in the gap between her knees, Emilia turned her gaze towards Subaru. Her gaze bore the colors of uncertainty and resignation, an un-Emilia emotion he had never before seen on her. I half believed and half hoped that you'd be here, Emilia-tan. Half, since I ran around here, there, and everywhere and couldn't find you, I had to turn my thinking on its head, not where, but why. Then, after I figured you were probably here, I'm relieved I actually found you. You were relieved? As Subaru smiled to try and put her at ease, Emilia posed that brief question. Her voice was quiet, ready to vanish at any moment. When Subaru raised his eyebrows, Emilia stared straight at him. You're saying that finding me here makes you relieved? That's all, you're not angry? What, Emilia-tan? Don't tell me you were scared you'd made me angry? Emilia's meek, trembling voice made Subaru loosen his lips without thinking. Having set off without telling anyone where she was going, she was scared of being scolded the instant she was found, just like some little kid. I'm not angry at all. I was nervous, and to be honest, it didn't exactly make me comfortable, but I'm not angry. I'm just really glad about everything, finding you here included, I'm just really glad. That's so? Subaru had exhausted all the reassuring words at his disposal, trying to loosen Emilia's tense heart. You're not angry. And yet, there was no relief infused into Emilia's murmur. Emilia? You're not angry with me. You won't even get angry. Her small, raspy voice was trembling. When Subaru, suspecting something, drew his eyebrows together, he had already realized too late. Emilia was looking down, biting her lip, her eyes wide open. It was as if she was trying to keep the tears filling her eyes from coursing. Why won't you get angry with me? I did something selfish, didn't I? I bothered you, didn't I? I left without saying anything, so you worried. I made you unsure if I'd run away, that's what I did. That's what I did, right? It's natural to be angry, isn't it? Subaru, even you must be. When Subaru tried to interrupt by calling out her name, Emilia poured out her emotions with a rapid flood of words. Emilia was asserting her own selfishness, apparently to draw blame to herself. Overwhelmed by the sheer force of her negativity, Subaru came to realize the error in his thinking. Emilia hadn't been afraid of angering Subaru. Emilia was afraid he would not blame her for her actions. After all, that meant, why won't you get angry? Are you not angry because you didn't expect anything in the first place? You being kind to me when I fail like this means, my failing didn't disappoint you at all? Isn't it because you thought I wouldn't do well? Perhaps, just perhaps, this was an insecurity that had always rested at the bottom of Emilia's heart, one she had never before put into words. Over and over, Subaru had greeted Emilia with warmth when she failed in her challenge of the trial, crushed by her own cowardly heart. As he did so, he had both aided Emilia and instilled anxiety within her. She was despondent over betraying his expectations. But Subaru had never showed that to Emilia, not even once. As the failures added up, continuing to gently console her might have saved her heart temporarily, but only by searing ever greater anxiety upon it. All that time, Emilia had been frightened of Subaru and Puck's kindness. You're wrong, Emilia. That's not how I think of you. Subaru earnestly tried to reach out to the great ripple arising in Emilia's heart. If he let go of her heart there, it would be lost for good, he would never be able to capture it again. It's not because I think that way that I'm not angry with you, then. Then why didn't you keep your promise? She instantly raised her voice. The word promise held him in its snare. When Subaru, who was hit right where it hurt, was cowed into silence, Emilia shook her head in rejection. He could offer no response. It was a fact that Subaru had let go of Emilia's hand the night before. I asked you to hold my hand until morning. Subaru, you promised. Why did you let go of my hand? Why didn't you keep your promise? Her tearful voice strictly levied blame on him for not keeping his word. He could have listed reasons if he wanted. To liberate the sanctuary. To learn more about Garfield. But those words were thin, light. Besides, it wasn't just that. Subaru's reasons for breaking his promise, for leaving Emilia's side, were not limited to those things. Subaru, Puck, you all break your promises and go off somewhere else. You go off somewhere and leave me behind, liars. Subaru, you liar. Puck, you liar. Liar, liar. Face lowered and tears flowing, Emilia bumped her head against Subaru's shoulders, her hands powerlessly pounding his chest. There was virtually no force behind them. And yet, the pain felt like it was enough to tear his body asunder. That was probably the same pain Subaru's insensitivity had caused Emilia. I told you before how important promises are to me. How to spirit mages, to me, promises are so important. That's why I wanted you to keep them. Subaru, you apologized for not keeping them before, so why did you break your promise again? Emilia, you mustn't break promises, you mustn't lie. You have to keep your promises. I mean, if you don't, if I'd only kept mine, Mother and Guse wouldn't have. Her face still pressed into Subaru's shoulder, Emilia slammed emotions into Subaru that had nowhere else to go. Her upsurge of sadness and anger over his betrayal had sliced her thought process into thousands of tiny pieces. You mustn't lie, you mustn't. The grief-filled voice that spilled out tore at Subaru like a claw to his heart. Promise, that was a word that had passed between Subaru and Emilia, bearing different meaning to each. He'd hurt her before by taking their promises too lightly, and the memories of that were still fresh. And yet, once again, the word promise held no gentle echo but instead a crippling weight that bound them both, enough to make Emilia bury her head between her clenched knees and continue crying even that very moment. With every second that passed, seeing her like that carved feelings of guilt into Subaru's heart. As he listened to her sobbing voice, he desperately pondered what he should say. Was it right to apologize? Was it right to act as if he understood? Should he earnestly console her? The thoughts went round and round inside his head, but try as he might, he could not grasp which answer was correct. What did he need to do? What he needed most, how could Subaru best convey how he felt? Subaru thought and thought, searching for the best words he knew, the ones that could reach the heart most. Emilia. I love you. What he voiced was a confession that was clashed enormously with the time and place. Subaru's confession made Emilia lift up her face, as if wondering if she had misheard him. She beheld Subaru with her violet eyes, which were dotted by tears even then. He saw himself distorted by the droplets, and yet, he held something strong within him that absolutely would not waver. For then and there, he bore no uncertainty whatsoever about the words he needed to convey. You're trying to take the same trial over and over, night after night. I don't know what past you're seeing, but the past isn't something to squirm about forever. Gah. And instead you're all like, I'll try my best, I have to do it, all stubborn and everything. If you cleared it, that'd be one thing, but the result was that you failed after running your mouth, wasn't it? Subaru, in the end, with your pet and your guardian gone, you can't even walk properly by yourself. So what, you're gonna drown your worries in tears, abandon your duties, and go to sleep? I can't watch you like this. The abuse Subaru seemingly spat out made Amelia open her eyes wide and still. Her surprise was such that he could see few tears left in her moist eyes. She trembled weakly, her lips unable to speak even a single word. Without doubt, never had Subaru hurt Amelia's heart more than he did that moment. This was the malice and disgust that Subaru Natsuki had never once turned toward Amelia to date. Receiving this, Amelia's expression slowly dried up as a smile came over her. That's right. Even Subaru thinks about me that way. It's only unnatural. I've done terrible things, even though I was told better, haven't I? Ever since I came here, no, since long before, I've caused nothing but trouble. That's why without a word, Subaru accepted the trembling Amelia's self-deprecation. Amelia's throat contracted, seemingly swallowing down her sobs, yet a pain-filled smile remained upon her even so. That's why it's natural to abandon me, Puck and Subaru both, got that right. After failing this many times, I still don't see any sign of improvement. It's only normal to think that this is less I'll manage somehow and more who cares what happens. At the end of her self-denunciation, Amelia tried to conclude that she was hopeless. With bitter words, Subaru was in full agreement, stealing the conclusion from right under her. And then, but one step before coming to that exact conclusion, Subaru cut off his words. Amelia lifted her face. Subaru understood the emotions hovering in her eyes so much that it hurt. He understood, for this was the same despair he had once harbored toward himself. That was why Amelia. I love you. Subaru would not let Amelia escape, using the same words that had once cast an inescapable curse upon him. Subaru made his confession, staring into her eyes, bordered with long eyelashes, which shuddered from the impact. I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm hopelessly in love with you. Why are you, all of a sudden? I love your super pretty silver hair, I love those purple eyes that are like glistening gemstones, I love that voice that makes you feel good just from hearing it, I love those long, slender limbs, the white skin, the height difference and stuff is so ideal I can't stand it, I mean, just being with you makes my heart beat like crazy, and it's really bad. I love the fact that you're a little ditzy, it's cute how you try so hard at everything. I really respect how you're so frantic to help other people, I think how you put others before yourself is adorable, and I want to see all your emotions right by your side, forever. At a time like this, stop messing around. The words seemed to slide out of his mouth as his feelings for Amelia poured out. Subaru passionately confessed, but Amelia loudly and angrily shouted back. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? This isn't what we were talking about. Subaru, even you think I'm no good. You can't watch someone like me, that's why. Yeah, I suppose so. By rights, seeing you failing and giving up like this would make anyone's love run out. Normally, even I'd abandon you, turn tail, and run. And if you weren't Amelia, I would. Why? Even as Subaru concurred that the results were hopeless, he denied the most important part at its root. As if to say it settled nothing, it was unforgivable. Amelia rose her eyebrows anger. Even though you know I'm no good and unsalvageable, why do you forgive me despite that? If you're looking for an answer, I'll say it as many times as you want. Because I love you. When Amelia pressed close with a tearful voice, Subaru once again raised his own, their foreheads close enough to touch. Overwhelmed, Amelia recoiled, but this time, it was Subaru who closed the distance. With the two close enough to breathe each other's breaths, black eyes mingled with violet as he threw his words at her. I love you. That's why no matter how sorry you look, I only feel like I've discovered a new side to you. The way you keep trying even when you don't stand a chance makes me want to cheer you on, and no matter how much you get disgusted with yourself, I will never hate you." Subaru absolutely would not allow Emilia's wavering eyes to escape. "Even if you hate yourself for your own shortcomings, even if you worry that the people around you can't help but hate you, I'll keep expecting things from you, and I'll never use your weakness as a reason to hate you, or ever abandon you. Never." He understood how Emilia felt. But he also knew how to take her hand and pull her out of it. For once, someone had refused to abandon him, even when Subaru tried to abandon himself. "My love for you runs deeper than you'll ever know. All of you is like a shining light to me. Of course, parts of you are no good. You're not an angel or a goddess, you're just a normal girl. You'll cry when things are tough, and you'll feel like running away when things happen that you don't like. I get all that. But even so. But even with those weak parts, even with the parts one said terrible things about, I love all of you, Emilia. That's why, even now, I'm not disappointed in you." That's so self-serving, isn't it? Emilia stubbornly refused to listen to the myriad claims that fell from Subaru's lips. Unable to push her confusion aside, she kept on tossing out words of denial, and therein lay his hope. "After saying I'm no good in a way like that, you say you love me even so? That's unbelievable. Why do you believe in me like that, Subaru? I don't understand it at all. You're wrong. You've got this wrong from head to toe. It's not I love you 'cause I believe something. It's not like that. I love you. That's why I believe in you. Love alone isn't a reason to believe in someone. If love wasn't enough for me to believe in you, then why else would I go through such horrible shit just to save a troublesome girl like you?" Their voices loudened as their mutual feelings clashed. When Subaru put his hand against the wall and rose to his feet, Emilia did the same, standing so that she might face him. At a range close enough to butt foreheads, both had furrowed eyebrows as Subaru and Emilia vented their feelings at each other. Never before had the pair launched spittle, faces red, as they exchanged ragged words that all amounted to "you're wrong." "I love you. I love you enough to make my head go nuts, enough to be happy to die for you. That's why I'm putting up with the pain and suffering, standing in front of you even though I want to hurl right now. I never asked you to. I never asked you to say all those selfish things. Subaru, you're not thinking of my feelings at all, are you? This is how you take the brunt of everything, always getting hurt because of me. You don't understand anything about how that makes me feel. Like I could, like I've even thought about it. What I think of all the time is just ways to look good in front of you. I think about what I should do that'll make you think the best of me, what I should do that'll let me see your happiest face. It's hard work, damn it. Put on a cute face like I want a little more often, would you? Don't talk about me like I'm some sort of doll. If you're thinking of my happiness, why do you break your promises? I asked you to keep them and everything. Why? Why won't you? You actually hate me, don't you? I love you. Liar. Subaru's desperate attempts to slam how he truly felt into her overlapped with Emilia's loud voice. Just how much had he once told himself to put off conveying his feelings to her? Just how many obstacles had Subaru overcome so that he could tell her the words that would convey them? He piled on his confessions of love so much that they must have come off as cheap, empty words. But to Subaru, they were his true feelings, a confession that came once in a lifetime with his entire body and spirit, the real deal infused with all of his being. I'm not lying. I love you. What do you think about me anyway? You always act like you know it all. How much do you think you've shaken my heart, stringing me along with that cute face of yours like I've got a chance? Stop toying with me. I am not toying with you. All I did was act normally. Don't say weird things about it. Even though I have so much to consider right now, you're asking me how I feel about you. I can't think about that, Subaru. Stop it. Don't make this hard for me. Who's making this hard for who? You're making it hard for me. You're the one making it hard for me, Subaru. Like little children having a tantrum, both were reduced to emotional arguments without a shred of logic between them. With irreconcilable force, Subaru and Emilia slammed their fierce emotions into each other with loud voices. Inside the tomb, purportedly a place of tranquility for many years, the pair's irrational arguments continued to echo without pause. I don't know how many times I've said it. Subaru, you're a liar. You break your promises, but you come to me with a calm look on your face. Why, you thought I wouldn't notice, didn't you? I've been watching you. I've been watching to see if you keep your promises with me, Subaru. That's a bad personality right there. Testing people like that. What are you, a witch? A liar who breaks his promises has no right to talk. This and my breaking promises are two different things. The unconcerned way Subaru changed the subject left Emilia so angry, her words caught in her throat. She was so seized by emotion that she couldn't give voice to her thoughts. She made ragged breaths. Breathing in and out multiple times, Emilia's eyes were in tears as she asked him. Why did you break your promise? I feel bad about breaking my word. I really wanted to keep holding your hand and stay with you until morning. That's the truth. That's not what I asked. Why did you break your promise? I can't tell you. Clenching his teeth, Subaru responded to Emilia's question with a low, anguished groan and a shake of his head. Subaru refusing to give her an answer at this point made Emilia cover her face with her hands. You won't keep your promises. You won't even tell me why you broke them. What do you want me to do now? If you have something to tell me, just come out and say it. If you don't, Subaru, even I can't believe you. Emilia. If you'd only kept your promise and stayed with me until morning, I'd probably believe you, Subaru. I'd believe you and probably have given you everything. Instead, you broke your promise. Her face disheveled, Emilia embraced her own slender shoulders. Anxiety and fear rested in her quavering, violet eyes, for Emilia was speaking not to Subaru, but herself. After Puck was gone, my memories, they're coming back, little by little. Inside me, scenes I don't know and conversations I don't remember are gushing up one after another. All these things I didn't know until now, things that by rights I should have remembered. Just how much have I forgotten? I forgot them and then acted like they never happened. These were the memories Puck had called back in exchange for his pact with Emilia, the true memories kept under a lid that she had turned her back upon long ago. The lid had been removed, and scenes of a past she did not wish to remember had been restored. However, to Emilia, this came with the fear that she would no longer be able to be certain what was her true nature. When all those memories come back, what will I do then? Is who I am right now really me? I forgot so many precious things. I forgot about mommy. Is who I am right now wrong? Nature dictated that everyone accumulated memories over the course of their lives, binding each person to others around them. If that was so, was a life underpinned by false memories not wrong in every respect? If the point of origin was wrong, did that not make the path walked and the destination reached all wrong as well? What's important is not where you start, or what happens midway, but how it ends. Suddenly, a voice reverberated in the back of his mind. The distant voice, one that was very familiar to Subaru, was the voice of someone who was very close to him yet would never meet again. When they were parting, at the very end, in the name of homework, she had given Subaru a gentle present. Yeah, you're right, Mom. However it started, whatever path one walked, who had the right to decide what was right or wrong until the very end? Emilia, no matter what memories you remember, nothing's gonna change. I love you. I'll always love you. I can't believe you. Subaru, the version of me you say you love, might not be here anymore. You can't say something like, I can. No matter what happens, you're not going anywhere. I love you. Those are the words of a liar. Coming from someone who can't even make me believe him, then, I'll make you believe. With trembling eyes and a trembling voice, Emilia rejected Subaru. Words weren't getting through. His demeanor couldn't convince her. But words weren't the only way to convey feelings. That was why Suba, if you don't like it, dodge. They were at a distance close enough to breathe each other's. No, there was not even a breath's distance between the pair. Reaching his hand to Emilia's shoulder, Subaru brought his face close to her. When Emilia saw Subaru approach, bewilderment rose into her eyes as her body went rigid. For 1 second, he waited. It was the only chance he gave her to throw him off. But Emilia closed her eyes. Whether this was surrender or the product of hesitation, Subaru knew not. Their respective breaths became one. Emilia's breathing caught as Subaru knit his brows in pain. For the tiny sound that resounded was that of the pair's teeth forcefully bumping against each other. The first thing they tasted was a faint, throbbing pain. However, the powerful heat that followed erased it even from the most remote corners of their heads. Her lips were so soft. It was a kiss where they simply touched. To Emilia, it was her first. To Subaru, it was the second time he had kissed her. It was not like the first time, which carried the cold taste of death. The second kiss bore the hot taste of life. Ah! I love you. When their lips mutually pulled apart, blood rushed to Emilia's cheeks as Subaru unhesitatingly spoke those words. No matter how sorry you look, no matter how we argue like this, I'll still love you the same way, Emilia. No matter what happens, that'll never change. It'll probably make me love you even more than before. That's why I'll believe in you, forever. And if you have to ask why. Because you love me. In a daze, Emilia finished Subaru's sentence as she touched her own lips. She stroked her soft lips with her fingers, as if the touch of what had been there yet lingered. White tears coursed down her cheeks. It's natural to be anxious when memories you don't know about come gushing out. I understand why you'd feel scared that a version of you that you never knew is coming out. But it won't erase the path you've walked. You'll be all right, Emilia. How can you talk like that? Because it's not important where you start, but where you end. The woman I respect most in the world said that. Normally the worst guesser that could be found around the globe, his mother had taught him the most important thing he would ever learn. It wasn't that he truly understood the answer to her homework assignment, but she'd made him want to understand. At the very least, he wanted to show Emilia his good side when anxiety was making her stand still. It's all right, Emilia. No matter what you remember, I'm on your side. Whether you forget or remember, it's all fine. If you're still scared even so, we'll find it. Find what? Just like I sent you my feelings of love full speed, I'll send your worries packing full speed, too. That's how we'll find your precious feelings. Emilia did not fear any choice that hurt her for the sake of others. Through these, she prioritized the people around her, a stance that was noble and beautiful and that Subaru deeply respected. But though the words "it's for someone else's sake" were gentle, they were also sad, because how she felt for someone whose face she couldn't see did not even come close to how she felt about those she could see. All that said, I was kinda hoping you'd turn some of those precious feelings my way, my precious feelings. Perhaps Subaru's words had not really sunk in as Emilia touched her hand to her breast. Her fingertips were touching the crystal where Puck had once been, cracked with its light long lost. It was a vestige of a bond that should have been there. However, Emilia grasped it firmly nonetheless. If I get all my memories back, will my precious feelings be among them? Yeah. I'm sure they will. Along with a reason to keep on walking. He wouldn't call it half trust and half doubt, but Emilia certainly didn't agree completely as she nodded. Seeing Emilia like that, Subaru closed his eyes and turned his face skyward. He felt like the words that had previously saved him the same way had been gentler. He felt like he was saved by words that were gentler. Harsher. Stronger. Can I really be there for Emilia like that? Asking that out loud would have been too uncool, though, so he didn't actually say it. He exhaled, exhausted. Then, the very instant he forgot about it, the tomb's rejection slammed directly into Subaru's spirit. Putting his hand to a wall without thinking, he barely managed to avoid tumbling to the floor. Subaru. Hey, are you alright? It's nothing, well, that's what I want to say, but it's definitely something. It's pretty bad right now. For the time being, if we're gonna continue this lover's quarrel, I'd like to do it outside. Goodness, as if I have any intention of that. When Subaru, blue in the face, tried to put on a strong front, Emilia faintly smiled. It was a strength bereft of strength, but the sight of Amelia returning to normal was a sign to Subaru that she had become more positive, if only ever so slightly. She was still anxious, and answers were yet to come. Even so, she smiled. When the wobbly Subaru rested his weight against the wall as he walked down the passage, Amelia hesitated to lend him a supporting hand. Perhaps this was an after-effect of having earlier touched each other's lips. Thinking back, the sheer boldness of it made his face run hot. But for that one moment, he set a number of such deep sentiments aside. At the end of the passage, orange-colored sunlight was entering at an angle. And there, hey-ya! Sorry we kept you waiting. TCH, when Subaru spoke those words, there, raising a hand, not like I was waiting for you, and clicking his tongue in annoyance, was Garfield, waiting for the pair, his entire body drenched in red by blood in the setting sun. Chapter 7, None Can Lift the Queen Stone Alone. Garfield stood in front of the tomb with wounds all over. His entire body was smeared red with blood, and his shoulders rose and fell with ragged breaths. His head and body showed traces of blunt trauma all over, and only his loincloth remained upon his honed physique, leaving him close to naked. Without even shoes on his feet, he stood barefoot and still before them as Subaru lowered his hand. That's a pretty primitive style to go with. Took a bit too much of a liking to war paint? Never mind about that. Only place that'll get ya is rollin' on the ground. When Subaru shot the breeze with him, Garfield snorted through his nose and gave him a sour look. Jokes aside, the fact remained that Subaru was surprised to see Garfield wounded. He'd expected Garfield to show up at the tomb, but being covered in injuries was beyond his expectations. And the cause was that stupid bastard Otto. I told him not to do anything crazy. I underestimated him. I never thought he'd put up that much of a fight. On top of that, he sweet-talked Ram. That's how I ended up like this. Ram, with Otto? Garfield twisted his cheeks in disgust as he nodded and confirmed what Subaru had guessed. If his words were to be trusted, the wounds carved into his body were the results of Otto and Ram's exploits. Just how hard had those two non-combatants fought him? They'd probably done it simply to buy time. They'd made time for Subaru and Amelia to talk. That was what the pair had fought so hard for. But if you two die, it doesn't mean anything. Subaru imagined the worst possibility as cold sweat trickled down his brow. Given the state Garfield was in, it would not be strange if the difficult battle of which he spoke had resulted in him putting an end to their hard fighting with his claws. This, Subaru feared deeply. Subaru. When Subaru clenched his fist and bit his lip, a voice like a silver bell called out to him. When he looked, Amelia, standing right beside him, was touching his shoulder, her concern-infused gaze peering into his black eyes. Those eyes of hers had not yet come to terms with the emotions inside her. Amelia couldn't have had any way of knowing what the situation meant. Of course it would throw her for a big loop. Even so, Amelia was more concerned than doubtful, putting her consideration for Subaru first. Sorry, I looked pathetic. Now that I've remembered who's standing beside me, I'm all fired up. I understand. Don't do anything rash. Replying to her gentle words with a nod, Subaru once more looked at Garfield, who was standing on the grassy field in front of the tomb. With the stone steps between them, Subaru looked down at Garfield as the latter crinkled his nose. Garfield, what happened to Ram and Otto? You don't think me being here is answer enough? Unfortunately, I'm considered a poor guesser. I'd like to hear it straight from your own mouth. Garfield clacked his sharp fangs, his fierce response making Subaru grimace. The two exchanged sharp gazes. Garfield made a low growl in his throat. It don't matter what y'all are planning. I'll cut off whatever stupid things you want right here. It was not a reply to his question, but rather, he was making plain that he had no intention of giving a straight answer. In its stead, Garfield was referring to the real reason he was baring his fangs toward the pair. If the man named Garfield was the man Ryuzu and Shima said he was, then you didn't kill them, did you? I said that's got nothing to do with this. Livin' or dyin' has nothing to do with it. If I smash the entrance to the tomb and end it all right here, irritated, Garfield put a hand to his forehead and spat out his words. His blunt, violent conclusion was the optimal method of putting an end to the trial for good. But to Subaru, it sounded like nothing more than an excuse. Garfield was searching for an excuse not to have to kill Ram or Otto, or Subaru, either. If you do that, the sanctuary will be a closed, fenced garden for eternity. You all right with that? It's fine. Every other option's worse. Brushing Subaru's words aside, Garfield put a foot against the tomb stone steps. His advance, seemingly to cast aside all doubt, made Subaru feel he could see the gap between the determination and anxiety inside Garfield's stubborn mind. His body bloodied, covered in wounds, Garfield was determined to destroy the tomb, seeking nothing beyond a definite conclusion. But, what do you think you're doing, ah? Halfway up the stone steps, Garfield halted as his pupils narrowed. His feline gaze, reminiscent of a beast's, shot right through Amelia, the one standing before him to bar his passage. To Garfield, Amelia's strength as a combatant was unknown, and so, seemingly by nature, he strongly clacked his fangs and gave off a wary growl. Out of my way. I'll get rid o' what's worrying you with my own bare hands. Once I do that, Garfield. What are you so afraid of? Phew, went Garfield, Amelia's assertion leaving him short of breath. For a second, he was taken aback, however, Garfield immediately reddened with anger. His fangs were shaking. Me, afraid? You're afraid, aren't you? That's why you're speaking so loudly, stretching your arms as far as you can, stomping the ground with your feet. You're pushing yourself, aren't you? What are you? You don't know nothing about me. I do know. I mean, I've lived in fear of so many things for all this time. Because she was weak, because she was afraid, she knew. Putting a hand to her own breast, Amelia touched the broken crystal to make sure it was still there. Her violet eyes did not conceal her sorrow for the past, even as she pleaded to Garfield, his eyes wide open. Up to today, I've lived in fear. When Puck was with me, I put all the bad things onto him, relied on him, and forgot. I think I understand a little now that I finally remember them. Shut up. Right now, I only just started remembering everything I wanted to forget. I don't really know what it is I really need to do. But there's something there. I have to find out what that something is. Most likely, to me, it's something to be found inside the tomb, that's why I cannot move aside. But shut up. Get lost. I'm not listening to any of this. But you've already found that something for yourself, haven't you? When she posed the question, Garfield's endurance was already nearing its limit. An emotion beyond anger rested in his two eyes. It seemed like Garfield was ready to train his claws on Amelia. But everything you do is half-hearted, Garfield. With Amelia's assertion stabbing him, Garfield was left with violence as his only resort. Subaru slowly shook his head from side to side at the immaturity and short-sightedness of his actions. Subaru meant for Garfield to turn the brunt of his anger toward him. No, such intent was not necessary. There was no plan or calculation involved. It was something Subaru wanted to say, something he needed to say, and so, he did. If I can't do it, no one can. That's how I think, and there's no mistaking he's someone like that, too. Just how much of a conceited brat are you? Certainly, it's just like you said. Amelia's failing at the trial over and over. I can't deny she's all crying and sobbing over being made to see a past she doesn't want to. It was hard to watch her lose herself after Puck was gone. I can't even say with a straight face she's bounced back yet. Standing right beside Amelia, Subaru motioned to her with his chin, mercilessly critiquing her disgraceful behavior. It was a sudden topic, one that put a suspicious look on Garfield's face, but Amelia received it with dignity. The assessment was certainly not one that was pleasant on the ears, but it was correct nonetheless. She would stand, face her own shame, and take it head-on, for that was what she thought would make Subaru proud of her. If she challenges the trial right now, the results might not change. She might fail again, too, coming back in tears once more. If you know that already, why make her do it over and? But Amelia will challenge it, as many times as it takes. Unlike you, who lost and ran. She had recoiled from her past. She feared the trial. Her legs cowered from it over and over. But he could not lie to his own heart. He believed that whatever it was Amelia wished for, it was not a wish beyond her reach. That's just you glossin' things over with words o' hope, makin' the girl you love see hell over and over. Declaring thus, Garfield's teeth creaked, and he chipped a fong. Heedless, he howled. Who the hell can win against your own regrets? The trial was set up by a foul-minded witch to teach people that. Don't you get it? Regrets are hard, painful things. I think they're pathetic things you can't face, either. Ah. The pain of looking at the past is real. But that said, I intend to swallow it all down. Just like you said, the witch has a foul personality. I'll never forget my grudge for her betraying my trust. Even though it was a fraudulent farewell, with his parents fabricated from nothing but his memories in an illusionary world. Subaru had faced the greatest regret inside himself. From it, he had gained one farewell, and one answer. His grudge toward the witch who had granted him this would never fade. But these feelings, too, were real. I'm grateful to the witch. I'm glad I faced my past. I ran, and I kept running from it, but I'm glad I couldn't run from it. Neither Amelia nor Garfield could comprehend Subaru's gratitude toward the witch. Perhaps they took his words as wild delusions. It was fine even so. For at the very least, inside Subaru, his stance toward the past was set. And Garfield? Do you hate your mother who left you behind? Wah! Subaru's question caused the color of Garfield's face to change dramatically. From red with anger, it turned pale with shock, and finally, when it lost all color, he closed his eyes. From the old hag. Damn you, button into other people's pasts. Sorry. Even though we take off our shoes when entering someone's house, we keep them on when stepping into someone's heart. It's a Natsuki family tradition. There were the words of the witch, the words of his biological sister, the words of his grandmother, and the words of yet another grandmother. The night before, Subaru had heard straight from the lips of Shima, who held Garfield dear to her, confirming that Arma's speculation was correct. The past Garfield saw had indeed been the moment he and his mother parted. He openly confessed to trampling all over Garfield's heart in order to learn more. I have some notion of what past you saw. Frederica and your mother left you both in the sanctuary and went out into the world. So you saw that, and then what? He told him of what he'd heard from Shima. However, he left the conclusion blank as he tossed the question. The question Subaru posed made Garfield shake his head, repulsed. Subaru heard his fangs clattering non-stop. This was no act of intimidation, but simple shaking from fear. Seeing this, Subaru took a step forward, not allowing any escape as he redoubled his question. Frederica left the sanctuary. She believed you'd open the sanctuary someday, so she left to make a place in the outside world for the people here. So what have you been doing on the inside? Garfield had rejected the warmth of the hand his sister had offered him, continuing to cower within the sanctuary instead. Feelings of guilt sprung up for digging into the scars on another person's chest. Subaru forced down the feeling, pressing Garfield for the truth, his fingers digging into the wounds, drawing blood in the process. Was it that your mother abandoned you, so you hated your mother, so you hated the world that had stolen your mother from you, so you stayed shut inside the sanctuary? Here, because you didn't want to get hurt. That ain't. What do you know? Don't flap your damn lips like you understand. That's right. All I'm saying is my own arbitrary guess, flapping my lips like I know what I'm talking about. Only you know what you really think. I'm not your family, so I'm not gonna know unless you come out and say it. When Garfield retorted on reflex, Subaru harshly scolded him, pummeling him with words. If you don't say it, we won't know. If it's not in words, no one'll get it. If you hate your mother for abandoning you, go outside and get revenge or whatever right this minute. Don't pin this on us people on the inside. That's what it is, isn't it? You're just lashing out? Garfield's expression contorted. He went down the stone steps, as if trying to put distance between them. There was no escape. Grasping Garfield's arm, Subaru brought his face close enough to take a bite out of him. At breathing distance, he glared into that sad, blood-smeared face and asked. And kept asking. You hate your family. If you didn't, you wouldn't be, no. Me, I. In Ryuza's words, the truth about Shima, Echidna's advice, Roswell's and Frederica's behavior, the soft gaze Ram sent Garfield's way, there, Subaru had found a different answer. There was a basis for Garfield's actions. This basis was hatred toward his mother and fear of the outside world. He raised that conclusion aloft. He raised it, so that Garfield's objection might strike it down. Even that very moment, he was not killing Subaru or Emilia but trying to destroy the tomb in order to prevent the liberation of the sanctuary. He wanted to keep Emilia from taking the trial, because his fear of the sanctuary being liberated was exceeded by his inability to watch Emilia being tormented by her past. If there was a basis for Garfield's actions, it was not hatred or estrangement toward his past. What is it you really think? Tell me, damn it. Me, I want Mom to. Swallowing his breath, Garfield turned his face to the sky, his fangs quivering and voice tearful as he spoke. I wanted her to be happy. We were in the way, right? Sis and I, we were in the way of her being happy, right? They poured out the feelings that had been resting inside Garfield for 10 years. I got it, of course I did. She abandoned Sis and me. Isn't that right? We were kids she never wanted, and half-bloods at that. Of course we were in the way of a better life on the outside. What's strange about abandoning us, she wasn't wrong about anything. Unable to hide the trembling in his voice, he tried to at least conceal the trembling in his eyes, covering his face with his hands. Of course she abandoned us. That's why I don't hate Mom for it. Of course she did. Sis and I were in the way, so she went outside to be happy. On that day, when he was still very young, Garfield watched his mother leave them in the sanctuary. And then, when he challenged the trial, Garfield saw his mother abandon them once more. Garfield had been abandoned by his mother twice. Who could blame him for the cracks in his young heart? But what truly left Garfield feeling helpless was not the sight of his own mother abandoning him. But I saw. When I went into the tomb without telling Grandma, I saw Mom, who left us. Right after she left, she got caught up in a landslide, and then. Sis doesn't know. Sis still believes Mom's living somewhere far away. But that's not really true. Right after abandoning us, Mom died. In a tearful-sounding voice, Garfield proclaimed the fragmentary truth he had seen with his own eyes. That cruel truth slammed into Subaru, who already knew, and Emilia, who did not. She died, she never got to be happy. Garfield kept his face covered with his palms, sobbing raggedly as he continued. Why? Didn't she go to the outside world so she could be happy? Subaru gave no reply. Didn't she leave us so she could go off and be happy? Emilia gave no reply. If she abandoned us, only to die right away without ever being happy, then, Garfield kept tossing unanswerable questions to a pair unable to answer them. This was likely a question that Garfield had kept asking, echoing at the bottom of his heart. What should we do with the loneliness and sadness from her abandoning us? In those 10 years, he had continued searching for the answer to that, finding none. I wanted Mom to be happy. He put his strength into that tearful voice. Removing his hands from his face, Garfield made his fangs creak. Clenching his teeth enough that it seemed they might split, blood dripped from his tattered lips as he howled. This sadness. The loneliness from being abandoned. I wanted to believe that if they made her happy, there was meaning to them. I wanted to make Mom hate me. His feelings for his mother had nowhere left to go. Garfield had shut his heart inside the sanctuary. With nothing left to slam them against, his ferocious emotions had kept on burning like a flame, consuming his soul as its fuel. Amid the flames of his smoldering heart, Garfield vowed to himself. I ain't letting anyone leave anymore. His voice was shaking. There was anger, sadness, and the vestiges of fierce emotions forming a fire that continued blazing that very moment. Just changing doesn't mean you can be happy. There's lots of people around who can't do anything like that. What are they supposed to do? Should they just become sacrifices and take on all the sadness so others can be happy? Are they all supposed to become changed like me and Sis? Garfield spread both arms wide, hoisting the sanctuary, isolated from the outside world, onto his own shoulders. Me, I'll protect. Powerfully pressing down with both feet, Garfield stopped howling, calmly stating his words. I'll protect. I'll protect everything as far as my hands can reach. Protect, I'll protect them. I won't lose anyone else. I won't let anyone go through what Mom had to. It was not anger that made Garfield's heart tremble. It was not sadness. 10 years worth of resolve, 10 years worth of determination, 10 years worth of desires, it was these that infused Garfield's shout. I'll be the barrier. A real barrier that separates inside from out. Garfield. That's why. I'll protect everyone in the sanctuary. Protect Grandma. I'm the only one who can do it. I'm the only one who knows. I'm the only one who has to know. Spitting blood as he raised a mighty shout, Garfield made a great leap backward. Abandoning climbing the stone stairs, Garfield landed on all fours in the middle of the grassy field. With a shudder, every hair on his body stood up. Subaru understood what he intended to do like it was the back of his own hand. Subaru. It's all right, Emilia. When Emilia addressed him, Subaru nodded, heading down the stone stairs on his own, turning toward the grassy field. In that grassy field, dyed in the color of the setting sun, Subaru faced off against the gradually transforming Garfield. You ignorant, blockhead bastard. Garfield could no longer be stopped with words. So that only left one thing to do. I'll put you on your back and drive it into you. That you're a kind and really stupid jerk. Oh. A howling voice accompanied the ground cratering as Garfield, on all fours, transformed. His bones audibly creaked as his body swelled, and he bared his fangs as golden fur appeared all across his skin. Having turned into a ferocious, mindless beast for the purpose of killing Subaru Natsuki, Garfield roared. Ga-ia. This was a decision to kill. Garfield deemed he had no choice but to kill Subaru. Subaru could not be stopped short of killing him. The last 10 years had left Garfield unable to sheath his fangs. Hence, Garfield transformed as a last resort, for the sake of taking a life. Turning into a mindless beast so that he would not avert his eyes at the critical moment. But that's your mistake, Garfield. Not wanting to slay his foe, to thrust his claws through his opponent, was kindness. The decision to use his body to protect the hearts of those around him, to protect the sanctuary, was kindness. But making excuses for supposedly unclouded wishes and feelings in order to kill someone who couldn't be left alive, averting his eyes to his own actions, and going as far as to stop thinking at all, that was not kindness. It was weakness. And Subaru Natsuki did not hesitate to take advantage of that weakness. I'm counting on you, body of mine. Don't break down on me when we're inside the ring. The transfigured Garfield bent all four limbs, widening his fangs as if to bite Subaru with them. Instantly, Subaru pictured a gate above his navel that was connected to the very center of his body and chanted. Shamaakoak. Just before the great tiger leaped forth, Subaru shouted with all his spirit, and the world shouted back. An incomprehensible darkness explosively spewed forth, swallowing the fiendish beast, who was extending his sharp claws whole. Those claws, which should surely have shaved away Subaru's life, never reached their target. The fiendish beast's bloodlust was erased somewhere in that abyss. The next moment, Subaru realized that a fateful impact had destroyed something in the deepest part of his body. He'd abused the gate he'd been told not to use. He'd used the magic that he'd been forbidden from using. He'd gone against the warnings of his personal healer, the greatest healer in the kingdom. The cost of betraying those words might have been to never be able to use magic again. The gate that had been at Subaru's core collapsed. Violently, chaotically, oblivion clawed at his mind. Thanks. The cord he had relied on so many times to date had been cut. To this feeling of losing something he could never regain, Subaru spoke words of parting. The magic he had relied upon several times over had finally had enough of him. It could not be helped. But he was grateful nonetheless. With gratitude in his chest, he took a powerful step forward. His goal of landing a single blow had been met. The darkness magic he activated did not even cover the whole of the beast. Subaru had no talent for magic. This was all he could do with the final spell cast under his own power in his lifetime. Thanks to that, he made a beeline toward the beast's wide-open right shoulder. "Come step onto my turf, Garfield." With all his strength, Subaru pounded the blue crystal he gripped in his hand into that right shoulder, which was as thick as a log. Light gushed forth. GNN. Incredible particles of light surged forth. Subaru felt something akin to wind pressure as he fell backward. Landing on his butt, he backed away. Before his eyes, the fiendish beast, who had been swallowed by the black cloud, had yet to comprehend what had occurred. But the light-emitting crystal was consuming all the mana around it, turning the impenetrable darkness enveloping the fiendish beast into its own fuel. And with that crystal pressed into him, Garfield himself was no exception. Wah! Freed from the incomprehension slammed into him, he was assaulted the next moment by chagrin. When the black cloud lifted and the light gradually abated, what was there was no great, ferocious tiger. His transformation undone, Garfield had returned to his human physique, both in size and internal bone structure. Having regained his human form, Garfield wore the most incredulous expression of all. Lifting up both hands, he stared at the bestial fur shedding and falling from his white fingers, seeing for himself with his own jade eyes. What? Why did I turn back? Ho! Patting his own body as he searched for the cause, Garfield noticed the crystal in his shoulder. It was a crystal that marked one as an apostle, one Garfield knew well. The blue crystal from Frederica that Subaru had carried seemed stuck, unwilling to leave Garfield's body. "This is, sis, a stone, but why is it draining my strength like? What trick did you put into this stone? Who's to say? Maybe there's a very hungry kitty inside it?" Perhaps transformation had taken much of his endurance. Garfield was out of breath as he clawed at his shoulder. But the crystal rejected his fingers, biting into his flesh and showing no sign of coming off. "This is all the help I can give you." As light faded from the stone, the blue crystal, he felt like he heard a laugh coming from it. Having kept silent, the incomplete communication had made him keep worrying all that time, but "If you're gonna be quiet, keep quiet, you noisy, glimmering jerk." With that listless comment, Subaru saw with his own eyes that the assist from the crystal, his trump card, had worked. "Watch this, Emilia." Slowly standing up, Subaru took a deep breath, then spoke to the presence he felt at his back. Behind him, atop the stone steps, Emilia was watching over the pair's fight. It probably looked like a fight that Subaru had no hope of winning. There was no mistaking that in her head, she wanted to stop this. Even so, she didn't. Emilia, who had so angrily tried to stop Subaru from engaging in repeated fights out of unsightly stubbornness. Subaru, too, knew there was something that he could not quite call trust. There was no need to put a label on that something, at the very least, not then, at that instant. "Look at me, Garfield. Ah. If you want to stop me with your own hands. Don't chicken out and rely on your blood, you coward. How long are you gonna treat me like an idiot?" He stepped forward, bringing him to stand and face Garfield, who was rooted to his spot. They were both within arm's reach. Garfield was in a state of exhaustion, Subaru was in tip-top shape. It made for a pathetic tale, but at that time, in that moment, Subaru could stand on the same ground on equal terms. "No matter what you say, we're heading to the outside world. If you want to stop us, stop me first. Emilia will challenge the tomb. The sanctuary will open, whether you want it or not. Don't decide all that shit on your own. Who asked you to? Who gave you permission? This place should stay as it is, never changing. Of course it can't stay like this, always the same, stopped and never changing. Someone ought to have said it centuries ago before it turned out this way. There's people who want it to never change, damn it. If you could stay here and protect this place forever, that'd be one thing, but someday, the time and the era would leave Garfield behind. It was inevitable that this never-changing sanctuary would one day be forced to change. A day when you drive all of us together into the same corner, when you can't do anything about it by yourself, is definitely coming. It might be tomorrow. It might even be today. Cutting off his words, Subaru raised his arms, adopting a fighting pose. Talking wasn't going cut it. After the pushing in the crystal part, his plan was pretty much blank to begin with. Knowing that each other's words would settle nothing, his means were reduced to one. When the opinions of two men differed like that, the only way left was to fight until their souls were spent. I'm gonna knock you on your ass, Garfield. Respect the power of numbers. Ain't ya got a different way of saying that? Garfield howled at Subaru's line, their fists both unleashed simultaneously and landing in each other's face. Letting out anguished groans from the sharp pain, the pair backed heavily away from each other. Setting Subaru's fist aside, Garfield's blow was tragically weakened. The crystal embedded in his shoulder was absorbing his mana even then. Thanks to its aid, they were able to have a good, honest fistfight. If not for Otto, for Ram, for the crystal, for Puck, Subaru could not have climbed onto that stage. Hee, thanks to them I'm managing to make this a fight. He took a direct hit to the wide open side of his face. His vision swooned, which he put a stop to with a stump. In return, he kicked upward into his opponent's gut, sending a straight punch right into his opponent's lowered face. He was hit back. The hard blow made his eyes spin, and nosebleeds oozed from Subaru and Garfield both. Both their faces marred with blood, the objectively awful and clumsy brawl continued. Each and every blow was weak, but they reverberated in each other's core because of the feelings infused in their fists. Subaru was physically exhausted, Garfield was exhausted in both body and spirit. Thus, the damage spread further. Enough of this. When both sides were depleted in strength, what separated victory from defeat in a fight was skill. Evading Subaru's attack, Garfield spun his body, plunging an elbow strike into the pit of Subaru's stomach. When Subaru moaned in agony, his movements coming to a halt, Garfield delivered a hard chop to the back of his head, and when Subaru fell down, Garfield kneed him in the face. Subaru's vision ferociously shook. He proceeded to move backward and not fall. You still. Just sleep already. Give up, and I'll end this. Don't make me look uncool in front of my girl. Not giving up makes me look way better than giving up, damn it. If you're a man, let me look cool, you stupid jerk. Garfield probably hadn't been able to look good in front of Ram, the girl he longed for, not even once. Snorting out the blood blocking his nose, Subaru put a smile on his awful-looking face. His expression made Garfield swallow his breath, from which Subaru understood how creepy he must have looked. Subaru felt like praising Garfield's strength. You've done well coming this far. Simultaneously, Subaru felt sadness about his strength. Why did you push it this far? There was a future coming that Garfield could not change, no matter how stubbornly or valiantly he fought. Perhaps by telling him about the future assault on the sanctuary, Subaru might have been able to move Garfield off that spot. But that would not settle the issue within him. Even if his body moved for a time, his heart would remain in the same place. Garfield would ignore all those watching over him, all those extending a hand toward him, and continue to cower, grieving for his dead mother. Take a good look, Garfield. There's no wall here for you to be afraid of. There is a wall. There is for me. An absolute wall, separating inside from outside for me. For me, Grandma, and all the others. We're standing still. We're shut in. It's over for us. Don't you dare go and say it's over, don't you dare lose hope. In anger, Garfield lamented that by giving up, his own future was closed, finished. Something burned inside Subaru's chest. Amid that war of fists, amid that war of words, nothing made sense anymore. Something was wriggling around inside his belly. His gate was dead. He could use magic no more. Then what, in the deepest part of his body, was beginning to assert its existence that very moment? No matter when. No matter the time. If you want to do something. If you want to change. When you think it, that's your starting line, damn it. When you're frustrated, with nothing left, immersed in resignation, stopping your feet, clutching your knees, and cowering. When you're despondent toward yourself, disappointed with others, despairing from feelings of loneliness by being abandoned by those precious to you. When someone says lift up your face and walk forward again, who the hell replies why don't you just give up? Give up, go off and die, cower somewhere. Garbage. All of it was worthless nonsense. If you're clutching your knees and someone has the courage to speak to you, respond, would you? Hang in there. Do it. You may not know how or why, but if you stand and run, you'll get somewhere. The inside of his chest was hot. Isn't that right, Garfield? He called out the name of the small-looking man before him, eyes swaying weakly. The inside of his belly burned. Isn't that right, Emilia? He called out the name of the girl watching them from behind, the one who was sandwiched between weakness and the threshold of something yet unknown. Something from the back of Subaru's eyes flooded out. Hey, isn't that so, Rem? He called out the name of the one who'd made him lift his face, open his mouth, open his eyes wide, and stand tall. The one who had taught him that even when your feet were stopped in surrender, that didn't mean it was over. Subaru Natsuki desperately wished for the power she had given him then to somehow reach all the others. A power that was not Subaru's wriggled inside his body, making its first cry of birth. As if to bless its arrival, as if to celebrate its birth. Damn it all. I. Once more, Garfield swung his claw upward. It was no longer with words, but with actions that Garfield denied all that Subaru claimed. Lacking anything else to say, unable to give up on his feelings, Garfield had no other option. Having closed his eyes to so many things and averted his eyes from the future, he could not face Subaru, hence, he had not noticed that where he leaped, invisible hands were waiting. This new move sure gives off a bad impression. The world moved in slow motion. Subaru could clearly see Garfield leaping at him. His hostility had grown to its limit. And yet, his face was in tears, like a child throwing a tantrum. He aimed at the tip of Garfield's chin. That's enough, he knew, not with words, but with his heart. And then he pounded that spot with all his strength. The power he released exulted with joy, striking the unwary Garfield directly below its unseen form. The invisible blow took the form of a fist, smashing into Garfield's face and driving him toward the sky. Goo, oh. The moment after seeing it through, Subaru, too, went down on one knee. He violently retched from the sense that he had shed something from inside him, with agony as if his very soul had been whittled. Not a single drop of spit or blood came out. That one blow had truly taken everything out of him. This time, even that stubborn Garfield, hey, you gotta be kidding me, he was sure he saw Garfield fly skyward, with nothing to break his fall as he was slammed into the ground. Covered in wounds that were mostly there before clashing with Subaru, he'd endured a string of battles without any rest. On top of that, there was a spirit in his right shoulder sucking his mana right out of him. How did he explain this? Just how tough are you? Don't look down on me, I haven't broken yet. His fuzzy head was swaying, but even so, Garfield was standing on his own 2 feet. His gaze was unfocused. But he stood out of pure tenacity, rejecting Subaru's final push. Ha! Well, this sucks. Having come this far, I've got to face facts. Subaru had exhausted all his schemes, played his one trump card, and even used a hidden trick that had suddenly sprouted up. Even with Otto and Ram's valiant fighting, Puck's assistance, and all the rest, he had still been unable to defeat Garfield. Garfield was strong. Even when he was weak, he was strong. This Subaru acknowledged from the bottom of his heart. That was why now, no one else'll. With wobbly footsteps, Garfield walked forward as Subaru rested on his knees. Garfield was at his limit, but so was Subaru. His consciousness probably could not sustain even one blow, no matter how little strength was behind it. Accordingly, Garfield poured his entire nervous system into his claws, intent on beating Subaru with them. That was why Garfield never noticed the approaching sound or the shaking of the ground. The final blow that would drive Garfield to defeat. This is the end for Yaya. His announcement of the final blow was blotted out by the piercing neigh of a slender and tall land dragon. Shaking the ground, the charging, jet-black land dragon heartily slammed into Garfield, sending him hurtling into the air. Gay? The blow, which carried his entire body away, made Garfield's eyes roll back, his body thrust away as if he weighed no more than a pebble. He bounced on the ground twice, then a third time, ending in a sprawl. This time, he did not move a muscle. Upon seeing this, the leading actress who had delivered the final blow looked toward the sky, letting out a roar. "How about that, Garfield?" Standing beside Patlash, loudly taking pride in her victory, Subaru spoke to Garfield, who was prone upon the ground, in a voice so raspy, he couldn't even tell if it was really him that was talking. Both had used up all their strength and played every card they had in their hands. What was the decisive thing that separated victory from defeat? It was simple. The powerful Garfield had fought alone. The weak Subaru had not. Like I said, the power of numbers. There's other ways of saying that, damn it. The immobile Garfield resentfully responded to Subaru's words. His voice made Subaru lightly scratch his cheek. Then everyone's feelings bundled together to form bonds of victory. Ha, so this is, like, none can lift the quain stone alone, ngh. Leaving those words behind, Garfield finally fell silent. Watching this, Subaru waited several seconds. Certain of victory this time, Subaru turned his head upward. Finally, one of those sayings made sense, those satisfied words slipped out as he collapsed, bringing his torso to the ground, and his consciousness along with it. Loudly, the land dragon's neighing voice echoed across the sanctuary sky, announcing that the battle was decided. For once, Patlash, the one who had delivered the final blow unto Garfield, held a triumphant look on her noble face, jubilant from her feeling of achievement at having redeemed herself for past humiliation. To Patlash, Garfield was a mortal foe who had inflicted a mortifying defeat upon her. On the initial day of their arrival in the sanctuary, Patlash, who was pulling the carriage, fought Garfield, who had come to capture the intruders that had crossed the barrier. Though she did her best to protect Subaru, she had lost. Patlash, eagerly awaiting her chance to avenge herself, had splendidly achieved her aim. Having witnessed Patlash's joy at restoring her honor, Amelia let out a deep sigh. It had been a battle so fierce that she had genuinely forgotten to breathe. Just as Subaru had asked her to, Amelia had continued watching that grand battle until its conclusion. The sight of the two clashing had no doubt made her want to rush over and stop them many times over. But over the course of that, Subaru's voice and gaze had held Amelia's weak heart in check. It was a scene where she was permitted neither to lend a hand nor speak. It was torture. It was a terrible thing to endure. Yet, it was a scene where the one thing she could not do was to avert her eyes. The scene, the pair's argument, and the pair's clash made something burn inside her chest. Subaru had been so stubborn. Garfield had cried in such a tearful voice. Two men smelling of mud as they pounded each other to settle their dispute. Amelia did not understand even a fragment of what drove them. Even so, something that was hot, ebbing, and flowing inside her chest probably served as answer enough. Air, oh no. Subaru's going to die if I don't heal him. Snapping back to her senses, Amelia practically flew down the stone steps, seemingly gliding as she raced to Subaru's side. Standing beside Subaru, Patlash gave Amelia an almost wary glare. "Ah, you don't need to make a worried face like that, it's alright. Without Puck, my control is a little shaky, but I can borrow the power of minor spirits for something like simple healing." So, as she said this, the minor spirits of which Amelia spoke gave off a pale glow as they lent her their strength. Soft light enveloped Subaru and Garfield and began to slowly heal their wounds. Subaru's pained expression softened bit by tiny bit. Making a thin smile at the sight, Amelia gently brought his head onto her lap. Somehow, lending Subaru her lap like this had become a very familiar development, even though she would have much preferred fewer opportunities to give an injured Subaru her lap pillow. "When you wake up, there are so many things I really need to ask you, so," but perhaps the things she wanted to say to him numbered more just then. As she murmured, Amelia gently combed through Subaru's hair as he slept with the face of a child. Subaru grimaced for a moment. Then his lips truly slackened. It was soon after that Otto met up with them, carrying Ram upon his back.